The year was 1990. A small romantic comedy called Pretty Woman hit theaters, and no one expected it to become one of the biggest love stories of all time. Julia Roberts, with her fiery red hair and infectious smile, played Vivian Ward, a street-smart woman with dreams bigger than her reality. Richard Gere, calm and sophisticated, played Edward Lewis, a wealthy businessman used to buying everything except happiness. Together, they gave the world something pure, a love story that didn't care about status, money, or rules. It was magic, the kind that made people believe in love again. Decades passed. Hollywood changed. Julia Roberts became America's sweetheart, winning Oscars and playing powerful women. Richard Gere moved on to deeper, more dramatic roles. Fans accepted that Pretty Woman was a one-time miracle, a moment in cinema that couldn't be recreated. Until now. In 2025, the story continues. But this isn't a remake or a cash grab sequel. This is a return, a mature, emotional, and deeply human continuation of two characters who once found love when the world least expected it. The film begins not in Beverly Hills boutiques or hotel penthouses, but in a quiet coastal town. Edward Lewis, now older and softer, lives a more reflective life. He's retired from his empire-building days and is learning to live with simplicity, something Vivian once taught him. But time hasn't been kind to either of them. Life has taken them down different paths. Vivian, still full of charm and fire, has built a life on her own terms. She's not the woman waiting to be saved anymore. She's become the kind of woman who saves herself. She runs a charity foundation that helps young women find opportunities, echoing her own journey from the streets to self-respect. Yet deep down, she still feels the quiet ache of the love that once changed her life forever. The magic begins when fate, or maybe destiny, brings them together again. A charity gala, a surprise encounter, and a familiar song playing in the background. Their eyes meet, and suddenly 35 years disappear. The laughter, the awkward silences, the memories, everything returns in an instant. The audience doesn't just see two movie legends reuniting. They see time, love, and life itself coming full circle. What makes this sequel so powerful isn't just nostalgia. It's the maturity of love, love that's lived through joy, loss, and silence. Pretty Woman 2 doesn't try to recreate the fairy tale. It evolves it. The director reportedly wanted to show what happens after Happily Ever After. Do fairy tales survive the weight of real life? Can two people who once completed each other reconnect after decades of distance and change? These questions form the emotional spine of the story. As the camera follows Edward and Vivian through the streets of Los Angeles, now filled with electric cars, glowing billboards, and the echoes of their past, it's clear this isn't about rekindling old flames. It's about rediscovering what made them burn in the first place. Fans will notice tiny callbacks, the red dress, the limousine, the jewelry box, each one placed carefully as a love letter to the original. But the tone is gentler, wiser. Gone are the flashy montages of shopping and glamour. Instead, we see two people confronting the reality of aging, regret, and second chances. Julia Roberts brings warmth and confidence to Vivian. Her laughter still fills the screen, but it's now layered with experience, the kind of beauty that only comes from time. Richard Gere's Edward has changed too. The once cool, calculated businessman is now a man reflecting on what really mattered in his life. When they speak, there's no rush, no drama, just a quiet understanding that love, once found, never truly fades. By the end of the first act, audiences will realize this isn't just a sequel, it's a love letter to everyone who has ever wondered, what if? What if the one who got away returned? What if you could rewrite your story, not from the beginning, but from where you left off? And as that iconic Roy Orbison tune, "Oh, Pretty Woman," fades in softly under their reunion, the screen glows with warmth. The camera lingers on their faces, older, wiser, but still the same, and we remember why we fell in love with them in the first place, because sometimes the most beautiful love stories aren't about first chances. They're about second ones. The city has changed, but memories still walk its streets. Los Angeles, once the land of dreams and glittering promises, now feels older, heavier, wiser. It's no longer the playground of millionaires and models. It's a mosaic of stories, each hiding its own heartbreak. And somewhere within this city, two people who once defined a generation's idea of love are about to cross paths again. Edward Lewis no longer commands boardrooms or helicopters. His days of crisp suits and cold deals are behind him. He's now a man who measures success not by profits but by peace. After selling his company years ago, Edward spends his mornings watching the sunrise over the ocean, wondering what all those years of chasing power really gave him. The mansion is quiet. The phone doesn't ring. The man who once had everything now has nothing that truly matters except a heart full of memories he pretends to forget. Vivian Ward, on the other hand, has rewritten her story. Once a symbol of Hollywood's glittering fairy tale, she's now a woman defined by purpose. Her charity, the Vivian Project, helps women find work, shelter, and dignity, everything she once fought to earn. Her laugh is still bright, but there's a softness now, a calm that comes from living through both chaos and grace. She's proud of what she's built, but sometimes, when she drives home through the city lights, she wonders if there's a part of her heart she left behind in that penthouse long ago. The film opens on two worlds, running parallel, his quiet solitude and her unstoppable purpose. It's not fate that brings them together, but something deeper, unfinished emotion. Edward is invited to speak at a charity gala about social reinvestment, not realizing it's Vivian's event. She doesn't expect him either. When they meet, it's not the dramatic slow-motion moment you'd expect. It's awkward, human, and real. A quiet surprise. A breath caught mid-sentence. The kind of moment that says more in silence than any scripted line ever could. The crowd fades. The lights soften, and for a moment, time bends. Edward's voice trembles just slightly. Vivian's eyes glisten with the faintest memory. Neither knows what to say. They talk politely, carefully, pretending the years haven't built walls between them. But beneath the smiles, there's something undeniable, the old spark, buried under decades of unspoken words. As the night goes on, they walk outside, away from the cameras and flashbulbs, and talk like old friends who forgot how to be strangers. Vivian teases him about his old habits. Edward admits he still can't tie a proper tie without thinking of her. They laugh softly, the kind of laughter that comes with familiarity, not passion, but comfort. And yet, it's that comfort that starts to reignite something deeper. The cinematography mirrors their emotional distance and reconnection. The lights of Los Angeles glow faintly behind them, symbolizing the world they left behind. The sound design mixes faint echoes of "Oh, Pretty Woman" with a softer, piano-led version, nostalgic but reimagined, like the story itself. As they reconnect, we see flashes of their lives apart. Vivian struggles to build her foundation. Edward's lonely nights reading the same book he once gifted her. These moments aren't sad. They're tender reminders that love doesn't disappear, it simply changes form. Later, Edward visits Vivian's foundation under the excuse of wanting to help. But as he watches her guide young women with patience and strength, he realizes something: she no longer needs saving. She's the hero of her own story now. And that realization breaks him in the most beautiful way. Vivian, too, begins to notice something in him she never saw before. The man who once lived behind walls of money and control now carries a quiet humility. He's not trying to impress her, he's trying to understand her. And maybe for the first time, they're meeting as equals. Their renewed connection unfolds not through passion, but through presence, two souls rediscovering what they once meant to each other. Every shared glance feels heavy with history. Every unspoken word feels like an apology. The camera lingers on small details, his hand brushing against hers, her smile softening when he says her name. The brilliance of Pretty Woman 2 lies in this emotional subtlety. It doesn't chase the glamour of the past. It lets the characters breathe in their age, their regrets, their wisdom. It's about what happens when love matures, when it stops being a spark and becomes a quiet flame that refuses to go out. By the end of this section, audiences realize this story isn't about nostalgia. It's about rediscovery. It's not about falling in love again, But remembering why they ever did. As Vivian walks away that night, Edward calls out softly, "Vivian, you look happy." She turns, smiles, and replies, "I am, finally." And then, just before she steps into her car, she adds, "It's nice seeing you again, Edward." The door closes. The camera pans up to the Los Angeles skyline, and we hear that faint, familiar guitar riff fade in. The fairy tale isn't over. It's just growing up. Some stories live forever, not because they're perfect, but because they feel real. Pretty Woman was never just about a rich man and a poor woman. It was about transformation, how love, in its truest form, changes both people who dare to feel it. Now, Pretty Woman 2, 2025, dares to ask a bigger question. What happens in that love is tested by time itself? Director Nancy Meyers, known for her elegant touch in romantic storytelling, takes the reins of this long-awaited sequel. Her vision is simple yet deeply emotional, to bring Edward and Vivian back, not as symbols of fantasy, but as reflections of who we become after life has humbled us. Meyers wanted to explore love not in its youthful chaos, but in its quiet endurance. She reportedly said in an interview, "The first film was about falling in love. The second is about staying in love after the world has changed you." And that's exactly what makes Pretty Woman 2 stand out. It doesn't run from age, it embraces it. The film doesn't hide wrinkles or gray hair. It celebrates them as proof that love, just like people, evolves. The lighting is softer, the colors warmer. Every shot feels like a memory gently unfolding on screen. Instead of grand romantic gestures, we get small, meaningful moments, a shared cup of coffee, a silent drive through the city, a single look that says everything words cannot. Julia Roberts steps back into Vivian's shoes with a performance that feels effortless yet layered with emotion. This isn't the bubbly, wide-eyed dreamer we met in 1990. This is a woman who has lived, loved, lost, and learned. There's a strength in her stillness, a quiet wisdom behind every smile. Roberts plays Vivian not as someone chasing happiness, but as someone who's finally found peace within herself, even if that peace is occasionally interrupted by echoes of the past. Richard Gere, 2, delivers a transformation that mirrors Edward's emotional evolution. He's no longer the cold businessman hiding behind his money. He's softer, gentler, but haunted. There's a loneliness in his eyes, a sense that he's been waiting for something he couldn't name until he saw Vivian again. Gere doesn't overplay it. His performance breathes honesty. Every word feels like it's been carried for decades, finally finding release. Their chemistry, unbelievably, hasn't faded. In fact, it's matured like wine aged by time and truth. They don't need grand kisses or elaborate confessions. Sometimes they just sit together, saying nothing at all. But in that silence, you can feel everything: regret, forgiveness, and that timeless pull of connection behind the scenes. The production design pays homage to the original film while grounding it in the present. The iconic Beverly Wilshire Hotel makes a brief return, not as a symbol of luxury, but as a memory, a place where two lives changed forever. The film even includes subtle visual callbacks: the necklace box snapping shut, the red dress reimagined as a deeper crimson gown, the city skyline reflecting in car windows just like it did in 1990. Each detail whispers to fans, "We remember." The soundtrack also plays a vital role in shaping emotion. The legendary "Oh, Pretty Woman" by Roy Orbison returns, but this time it's slower, stripped down, almost melancholic. A haunting acoustic version that feels more like a goodbye than an anthem, reminding viewers that the fairy tale's rhythm has changed. Alongside it, new compositions by Thomas Newman add emotional depth, blending piano, strings, and city ambiance to capture both nostalgia and renewal. What's most impressive, though, is the tone. Pretty Woman 2 doesn't pretend to be the same story. It's quieter, deeper, and grounded in reality. It's not about fantasy anymore, it's about forgiveness. About the courage it takes to open your heart again after it's been broken by time. Vivian and Edward are no longer trying to escape their worlds. They're trying to make peace with them. The film also introduces younger characters, a subtle mirror of the original dynamic. Vivian's daughter, played by Florence Pugh, and Edward's son, portrayed by Jacob Elordi, bring a fresh energy. Their storyline runs parallel, exploring love in the modern world, faster, digital, uncertain. Through them, the film contrasts youthful impulsiveness with mature reflection. Love, it shows, has many forms, but its essence never changes. Critics who previewed early cuts described the movie as a gentle goodbye wrapped in hope. And that's what Myers intended. She doesn't want to replace the original, she wants to complete it. She gives the audience not a perfect ending, but a truthful one. One particularly moving scene captures the essence of the sequel. Edward and Vivian sit at a small cafe near the ocean. The sun sets, painting their faces gold. She tells him, "We spent so long trying to be who we thought the other wanted. Maybe now we can just be ourselves." He looks at her and simply says, "That's all I ever wanted." It's not loud, it's not cinematic, but it's real. And that's what makes Pretty Woman 2 so powerful. It's no longer about the fantasy of being rescued. It's about the reality of finding your way back to love. After all, the noise has faded. There's a kind of silence that only comes when two people have said everything that words could say, and yet, somehow the air between them still hums with unfinished emotion. That's where Pretty Woman 2 finds its final heartbeat. Not in the noise of grand gestures, but in the quiet grace of closure. The final act of the film takes place by the ocean, the same horizon that both Vivian and Edward now call home. The waves crash softly, steady, and endless, a symbol of time itself. Their story has come full circle, from the chaos of the city to the calm of reflection. Here they meet once more, not as lovers chasing a dream, but as two souls who finally stopped running from it. Edward, now a man who has learned to live with simplicity, brings something with him, a small box. The audience almost expects another diamond necklace, another nod to the fairy tale. But when he opens it, there's no jewelry. Inside lies a small photograph, a picture of them from the early 90s, taken during the first film's timeline, a memory of who they once were. He tells her softly, "I kept this because it reminded me who I wanted to become." Vivian looks at it for a moment, her eyes wet but not sad. She smiles, the same radiant smile that once melted a millionaire's armor, but this time, it's not the smile of a dreamer. It's the smile of a woman who's finally at peace. She replies, "You did become that man, Edward. You just needed to believe it." That line lingers, echoing the message that has quietly guided the entire film. Love doesn't save you. It teaches you who you are. The story doesn't force them into a typical Hollywood ending. There's no wedding, no proposal, no sudden promise of forever. Instead, it gives them something more real: understanding. Two people who once met by chance now meet again by choice. They've lived their lives, faced their regrets, and still found their way back, not because of destiny, but because love, once true, never really disappears. The cinematography in this final sequence is breathtaking. The sunset glows like liquid gold, casting long shadows as the waves roll in. Vivian and Edward walk side by side, saying little. The camera stays behind them, following their silhouettes, as if respecting their privacy, as if the audience is watching not characters, but people. Every frame feels like a goodbye and a beginning at the same time. The soundtrack returns in full. Oh, Pretty Woman, not as the upbeat anthem we once knew, but as a reimagined orchestral ballad. The strings rise as the waves crash, and we see flashes from the original film, the hotel balcony, the laughter, the limo, the blending with their present selves. It's a visual reminder that time changes faces, but not feelings. In a powerful closing scene, Vivian's daughter asks her one simple question: "Do you still believe in fairy tales?" Vivian looks out toward the sea and answers, "I believe in stories that don't end. They just grow up with us." And that's where the brilliance of Pretty Woman 2 lies. It grows up with its audience. The viewers who were once teenagers when the original released are now older, carrying their own stories of love and loss. The film doesn't try to sell them a fantasy. It offers them something far rarer: truth wrapped in tenderness. The closing narration, spoken softly over the final montage, drives the message home. They say love is timeless. But maybe love isn't about time at all. Maybe it's about moments, the ones we remember, the ones we regret, and the ones that find their way back to us when we least expect them. Some love stories never fade. They simply wait. As the credits roll, the camera drifts up into the orange-pink sky. The city of Los Angeles glows beneath, still alive, still beating. The same city where Vivian once stood in a red dress, looking for something more. Only now, that something more isn't a person or a dream, it's peace. The audience leaves the theater with a quiet ache, not sadness, but nostalgia. That rare feeling that reminds you of something you once believed in. Pretty Woman 2 doesn't try to rewrite the past. It honors it. It whispers to the heart rather than shouting to the screen. And when Julia Roberts and Richard Gere share that final look, it's not just acting. It's history. Two icons, one more time, reminding the world what genuine chemistry feels like. The film closes on one final line, Edward's voice. Carried by the ocean breeze, I once climbed a fire escape for love. I'd do it all again. And with that, the screen fades to black. The music swells. The credits appear, but the feeling, that warmth, that ache, that memory of believing in love, stays long after, because Pretty Woman 2 isn't just a sequel. It's a love letter to everyone who ever found themselves in the wrong story, until someone came along and helped them write a new one.